Good morning, everybody. It's Ben Jones here in my coffee workshop on Friday morning. If you're watching us live, if you're watching us recorded, I have no idea what day it is today. We're going to look at this little fella here. It's a riff on the Phin Brewer. The Phin Brewer is the traditional Vietnamese coffee brewer that you would sit right over your mug of coffee with some sweetened condensed milk in the bottom and brew up a really concentrated coffee and give you a nice, sweet, densely coffeed coffee. But this is this little thing here, a friend of mine has family in Thailand and India. So when they went back to visit the family, while he was in India, he came across a market where everyone specializes in making little stainless steel things, and he saw a vendor selling these, and he thought of me because I like coffee. So in my hand here is the brew chamber. It has this little plate. You can see it's perforated, and this will sit in here on top of our coffee grounds. I don't know if you can see. And here I brought the lamp over so we can shine some light. See there, we got a bunch of holes. Like a little disco party later. We've got some holes in the bottom of this, and our coffee will sit in here. This sits on top to somewhat compress and pin down the coffee, and then we pour our hot water over top, and we let it drip through, and it will land in this little container here, just a shiny steel catch. When we brew today, I'm going to take our little catch and set that aside, and we're going to be brewing into this so that you can see the coffee dripping. If you have one of these and you are trying to use it, just be aware, this is really thin steel. Heat goes right through the thin steel, so keep a little oven mitt or a cloth handy to handle this. All right, before the video, just because it's noisy, I went ahead and ground my coffee. 19 grams of the Colombia Las Brisas, just because I'm a sucker for this coffee. It's super delicious. All right, I got my water. We're nice and preheated. I'm gonna bring my scale over. I'm just going to set that right on top, and I'll go ahead and, because it is good to do, I'm going to pour some water in here to preheat this up a little bit, just so that the steel doesn't steal any heat from our brew. All right, take that, dump that out. All right. Normally, when I'm making a mug of coffee, my little 10-ounce diner mug, I'll be using the 1:17 ratio. That gives me 19 grams coffee going in, 323 grams of brew water, leaving me 10 ounces of drinkable beverage. The goal with the Phin is to get a highly concentrated, it's not espresso, but something closer along the lines of espresso. So we're going to use a much tighter ratio. I'm going to go, instead of 1:17 parts, I'm only going to use about 10 parts water for every part of coffee. That puts us, for all the math majors out there, 19 grams times 10 is a good round 190 grams of brew water. Because this is a metal filter, I can expect a cup that's going to have more texture. It's going to have more body. That's because metal doesn't absorb fine particles. It doesn't hold back oils. It lets all those lipids pass right through, as opposed to our paper filters. So that is just a brewing principle that you can apply at home to kind of customize and tailor in your home brewing. All right. I got my coffee in there. I got my brewer on top. All right, gonna give it just a little jiggle to settle that, tear that, and I have my timer on here. Oops, I almost forgot the little cap. We'll put that on. Let's put that on nice and snug, tear it again, timer comes on, and we just start. I'm gonna grab the camera. And that is, I'm not a very good camera aiming by myself. Sorry about that. All right, I suppose if I flip it around, there we go. All right, I feel like this is my first time doing this. All right. So I just want to bring it up to about 190 grams total brew water. And yes, there will be some grounds that lift up through that upper dispersion filter. That's okay. It's all part of it because generally they're being held down and that water is flowing through in a very snug fashion. You can see we got some drip there. Awesome. I'm going to flip it back around. Cool. All right, so that is that's the Phin brewer there. Just let that keep on dripping. I'm going to slide my scale back just because we don't need it on the scale anymore. And put this lid on for some heat retention. A couple fun facts about Vietnam when it comes to coffee. Yeah, this is like a riff on the Phin brewer. Vietnam is the second leading producer of coffee in the world, beat only by Brazil, and Brazil grows a phenomenal amount of coffee. We don't hear much about Vietnam as a coffee growing country because, well, a lot of the coffee that comes out of there isn't branded as Vietnamese coffee. A lot of it is, it's enjoyed in country, so it doesn't get exported. But a lot of it just really isn't branded as Vietnamese coffee. There are some folks, some good coffee friends of ours, who are in Vietnam doing some work, helping to boost the quality and the availability, and they're out trying to look for kind of wild growing coffees that are going to be a little more interesting. We've tasted a few in-house. They're kind of fun. It's a little different. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Vietnamese coffee emerging more to the market. I have a comment in the questions. Question in the comments asking how grind size impacts this type of brewing. So if we go really fine, it'll clog up and there's no pressure pushing through this. It just won't really drip. So we want to stay in the range of drip ground coffee, but we do want to be a little bit on the finer side of that drip, on the finer side of drip for this. So we want also to make sure that we balance out our brew time with our grind size. So if you're using a Bonavita, sorry, not Bonavita, if you're using a Baratza grinder and you're grinding kind of right in the middle, kind of out on a 20, most coffees are going to taste good with a number 20 grind size, probably in the 3 to 4 minute range. As we start shrinking down, if you're down into the 10s, which is pretty fine, you don't want to have quite as long of water contact. The smaller particles, we get a lot more surface area. The water can get in and pull flavors out of those particles a lot faster. And so when we drop down to the finer sizes, flavors develop faster. And as flavors develop faster, we begin to go beyond the delicious parts and get into the astringent notes, the burnt matches. So it's all about tuning your grind size and how long that grind is exposed to water. All right, we finished dripping through here. So I can take this and I don't have a place to put it. Oh, let's put it right into there. Awesome. So this is a fairly concentrated. You can see it's kind of cloudy. It has some of the sediment. It smells great. So we have about half a mug, about 5 ounces. It's tasty, but it's pretty strong. So normally this would be enjoyed with some sweetened condensed milk. I just want to have my plain good old cup of black coffee. So I'm just going to dilute it to strength as if it were an Americano. And I now have a nice mug of Columbia Las Brisas made with the simple little coffee brewer here. I think if I made this again, I'll tighten up my grind a little bit and get it to just drip a little bit slower. I want to pull a little bit more flavor out of here, but that's how this game works. We'll try something, we'll make note of how we did it, and then we'll make a small little tweak to our method. Change one thing at a time, keep it somewhat scientific. I'm going to make one of these later on today. I'm going to use a little bit finer grind size. I'll still use all my other parameters the same, water about 200 degrees. I'll even keep my ratios the same, 19 to 190. That's a good cup of coffee. If you're watching, make sure you take a little browse through the comments. We've got some good chat going on there. If you're watching live, absolutely visit the website and use the discount code WatchAndLearn10. It's the number 10, Watch and Learn 10, all one word. Gets you 10% off at our web store. Free shipping once you hit that $30 mark. Buy some brew equipment, get 25% off on a bag of dancing goats. So if you don't have a brewing cone, if you don't have a Chemex or an AeroPress, it's a good chance to get some, 10% off that, plus 25% off your dancing goats. Unfortunately, we don't have Phin brewers. It's a fairly uncommon brewer with most America, but I think right now I really want to try to highlight things that aren't just the traditional, straight up common things. There's a lot more interesting stuff in the world than just the good, old, normal, everyday things. There's a lot of good in the world if we can find it. You have to work for it sometimes. This cup of coffee is okay. It's a good start. Thank you for joining me. This has been the Coffee Workshop. Little riff on the Phin brewer. Have a good weekend, everybody.